All right, tonight we're diving into a huge matchup, AS Roma versus Inter Milan. But we're not just going to talk about tactics and players. Instead, we're going to see how a whole team of AI models breaks down this game to predict the final score. It's a fascinating look at how data is trying to find an edge in the beautiful game. So let's get right into it.
You know, this is the big question, isn't it? Can a cold, hard algorithm truly understand the passion, the chaos, the sheer unpredictability of a top-flight soccer match? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly how it tries.
So, to answer that massive question, we've got to start with the absolute basics. The foundation of any good prediction model starts with the most important thing in the game, goals. So first up, let's just look at the raw numbers. Who's expected to score?
And right off the bat, you can see just how tight this is. Using a core statistical method called Poisson regression, the model spits out 1.52 expected goals for Roma and 1.46 for Inter. I mean, that difference is so small it's basically a statistical tie. This is our first huge clue. When it comes to offensive firepower, these teams are neck and neck.
Okay, so if the expected goals are almost identical, what does that mean for the final scoreline? Well, take a look. The single most probable outcome, by a pretty decent margin, is a 1-1 draw, sitting at 11.3%. That's way ahead of any other specific score, which just hammers home that initial feeling of perfect balance.
The model also gives us other interesting tidbits. It's saying there's almost a 60% chance that both teams to score, which makes perfect sense, right? It's also leaning towards the game having over 2.5 goals. So every piece of this initial data is painting the exact same picture, an evenly matched, competitive game. But here's the thing. One calculation is just a snapshot. It's a good start, but it's not enough. If you really want to be confident in a prediction, you have to put it to the test. You have to stress test it by running the game over and over and over again. And that's exactly what the AI did next.
And when I say over and over again, I really mean it. The AI ran 10,000, that's right, 10,000 full Monte Carlo simulations of this match. Each one of those is like a complete virtual game played out from the first whistle to the last, all based on the probabilities we just saw.
And wow, just look at this. The results are overwhelming. Out of those 10,000 games, a draw was the winner a staggering 6,352 times. That's more than 63% of the time. A Roma win happened about 23% of the time, and an Inter win was actually the least likely result. The simulations aren't just hinting at a draw, they are absolutely screaming it from the rooftops.
Now here's where it gets really convincing. This wasn't just one model doing all the work, it was a whole team of different algorithms. You have your classic statistical models like Poisson, you've got heavy-hitting machine learning models like XGBoost, and even a neural network. And every single one of them came to the exact same conclusion. The draw is the most likely outcome. To get that kind of agreement across so many different methods is incredibly rare, and it gives us a ton of confidence.
Okay, so we know what the models are predicting, but to really get why they're so sure, we need to pop the hood and look at the engine that's driving all this. And you might be surprised to learn that this engine was originally built for a completely different game, chess.
I'm sure most of you have heard of the ELO rating system, right? It was invented by a guy named Arpad Elo to rank chess players. The idea is simple and brilliant. If you win, you gain points from your opponent. If you beat someone ranked way higher than you gain a lot of points. It's all about measuring relative skill.
But there's a problem when you try to use classic ELO for soccer. It kind of treats a draw as a half win for both teams, which doesn't really feel right, does it? That's where this upgrade, the Davidson ELO extension, comes in. It's a game changer because it adds a specific variable just for the draw, creating a true 3-outcome model, win, lose, or draw. And that makes it perfect for a sport like soccer.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. The new and improved model doesn't just guess that draws happen, it actually looks at real-world data from leagues like Serie A, where draws are super common, and it adjusts itself to match reality. This makes the whole system so much more accurate for soccer.
So let's bring it back to our game. If you just look at the raw ELO ratings, Inter has a clear edge. But, and this is key, the model is way smarter than that. It knows that Roma has a massive home field advantage, and once you factor that in, it almost perfectly cancels out Inter's rating advantage, bringing the whole matchup right back to that dead-even statistical parity we saw from the very beginning.
Okay, so our own house is in order.
Our initial stats, those 10,000 simulations, the underlying chess theory, they are all pointing in exactly the same direction. But are we just living in our own little data bubble? The final step is always to check your work against what everyone else is thinking.
And would you look at that? It is a stunning consensus. Our SPECTRA AI says draw. Footballpredictions.com is calling for a 1-1 draw specifically. Other big public models like 4Bet are talking about a draw-heavy scenario. It seems like everyone who's looking at the data is seeing the exact same thing.
So what does all this mean in a practical sense? Well, the model boils all this confidence down into a single number it calls a statistical edge. You can think of it like this. The model found a 9.29% edge on the betting odds for a draw. It's basically saying, hey, based on my deep analysis, the market is actually undervaluing how likely this draw really is.
And really, that's the big story here. It isn't about any single prediction. It's about the power of convergence. When you have a simple model, thousands of complex simulations, a solid theoretical framework, and a consensus from the outside world all pointing to the exact same outcome, well, you're witnessing one of those rare moments of clarity in the beautifully uncertain world of sports.
And of course, we have to end with a very important disclaimer. This content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not financial or betting advice. Gambling can be addictive. Please always bet responsibly.